When I was in my early 20s, in college, there's no place I'd rather be on earth but twerking in somebody's hot ass, weed filled club, sweating, just throwing that thing, you know? Imagine 20-year-old me making decisions from my 33-year-old niece today? Like, no, absolutely not. Now, don't get me wrong. I still absolutely love a good twerk session. There's so much growth that happened that I had no idea was coming. And that is exactly what this predicament is. When you're married during that time, you're kind of trying to spread your wings, but it's crowded in this bitch. Super dumb, super trash, but at the same time, sometimes it is the best course of action. Now, I can't say today, in October of 2022, that it was the best course of action for my marriage. The jury's still out on that one. But I will say I understand it more than I did at the time, now that I have a little bit of space and distance and healing between me and the event. But there's still some nuance to my particular situation that I can't discuss right now that makes me still like, yeah, nah, this wasn't the best way for this to go down. But I don't know how to sequence this, so I'm just going to kind of jump all over the place. It's funny because, well, not funny, but it's interesting because in this journey of divorce, there's actually like this whole, oh, well, did you divorce them or did they divorce you? Like it's a thing, you know, like there's the people that are divorced and the people that divorce, and y'all feel like y'all are on separate camps. But the weird part is, as a woman, because women are typically the ones that are asking for the divorce. So being a woman that is on the receiving end of a divorce, I'm in a peculiar spot. It's like a unicorn, but not the pretty kind of unicorns. This is the unicorn that don't nobody want. I'm able to see both sides a little bit clearer, but that took growth, because initially when I would hear about someone ask that, like, was the petitioner women or men, I'd be like, you don't know what it is. You chose this. And while some absolutely do choose it, there's this other more nuanced truth of, no, the other person just had more like waiting power. Okay, let me clear this up. Sometimes the only reason that the person that asked for the divorce is the petitioner is because the other person doesn't care that things stay trash forever. Meaning there's someone that wants to make the marriage work, but the other partner is stagnant and doesn't care. They're fine just leaving well enough alone. You could argue that person checked out of the marriage a long time ago. This person just had the courage to follow through. Now, I say that and it's a little triggering because I can guarantee that my ex would think that was the scenario. But make no mistake, I don't believe that. But, perspective. I do feel like, barring any kind of abuse, that a lot of marriages can work if both people are willing to work it. Now, some might take more effort than others. And I think that's where we start to get the breakdown. Because, like I said before, not everybody has the same tolerance level for the amount of work that it takes. It takes so much fucking work to stay on the same page with somebody, especially if you maybe are a little less compatible or you're going through a specific season. There's so many triggering life events that can cause stress or strain on a marriage. Death in a family, birth in a family, transitions in a family, transitions in life. So I think my relationship in particular, a big stressor on us was, well, first of all, we got married young. We got married while we were still in school. We were in grad school, but still in school. We were long distance. And I think the most stressful part of our point of our marriage was transitioning into adulthood. And that was like young adulthood. So basically the part from leaving school to starting our real lives, because that's the moment where you're finally doing shit for yourself. And I'll be damned if somebody gonna tell me how to live my life when I'm paying my bills. I'm taking care of myself. Because you go from your parents' house where they're taking everything, you got to live by their rules. Then I'm in college and I'm kind of on my own, but my parents are still a little bit of a crutch for me. And honestly, Department of Education is paying my rent, like through these student loans. So I'm not really living that fully free, responsible adult life. But then once I got a job, after all these years of, schooling and everything like that, and I got a mortgage, got a car note, got paying back my student loans, like responsible as fuck, right? Got life insurance, like, oh, I'm out here for real. Can't nobody tell me nothing but my husband. And so that's the moment where you start to step into yourself, because you no longer feel bound to somebody else's thinking or way of life or anything like that. And so when you're married during that time, you're kind of trying to spread your wings, but it's crowded in this bitch. And so it ends up being this, y'all are both trying to grow in this same small ass box. And you start to like flap in each other's face a little bit. And it's like you're trying to get to know yourself, get to know this new version of you, this more evolved version of you, figure out what parts of it you like, what parts of it you don't like. And the other person's doing the same thing too. And we're both well within our rights and absolutely should be growing and evolving. But when I married your ass, I didn't know you was going to evolve into an avatar and want to be blue every day. Like, imagine, I think of this like when I was in my early 20s in college, there's no place I'd rather be on earth but twerking in somebody's hot ass weed filled club, sweating, just throwing that thing, today at 3:00 in the morning with the smell of weed in my hair, without a section, drinking grain alcohol? Like, no, absolutely not. Now, don't get me wrong. I still absolutely love a good twerk session. But I also love it to be during day party hours so that I can be in bed by a good time. I won't say that I'm bougie enough to have a section, but I need a place to sit. You're not going to have me just out here standing and uncomfortable. I also don't want it to be crowded. I don't want to be sweating just because I walked into the building. So anyways, imagine 20-year-old me making decisions for my 33-year-old niece and my 33-year-old sleep habits. Like, there's so much growth that happened that I had no idea was coming. And that is exactly what this predicament is. So I am a firm believer that wait until you are living your adult life. And I say adult life because I know that transition happens differently for different people. Going to college, that transition happened after I got out and started working. But if I didn't go to college, maybe that would have happened sooner in life, once I started picking up more adult responsibilities. Or if I had a kid, maybe that would have happened when that happened. So it's different for everybody, but recognizing the transition that's going to come, maybe you'll be exactly the same, maybe you won't. Maybe your partner will be exactly the same, maybe they won't. But it is a rude awakening when you roll over and see a person that you once loved that you all of a sudden can't stand, and be like, oh shit, but we're already together now. What do I do? So yeah, it's definitely a realization that I'm having. And that being said, maybe that's not the best relationship to be in. And if that person, so you wake up and all of a sudden you don't really like the person that you married. Truth be told, they don't like your ass either. All right. Can we work this out? I love you. I just don't quite like you. So can that love fuel me to put in the effort to find out how to meet halfway? Because I do think that it's possible to do, especially if there's that love that's there. I do believe that if there was once chemistry, that can be reignited. Compatibility, I think that's something that you want to be already there. But I do think that you can work towards it if both people are willing to put in that effort. And I definitely think that's where my marriage dropped the ball. We weren't both able to put in the same effort the same way and for the same amount of time. Because putting that effort in, make no mistakes, it may not be some quick solution. Like, bitches be arguing about the same thing for years, decades even. And sometimes that's how it is. It might be year 8 that shit smooths out. I think year 7 and year 8 is where they say there's I think year 1 and year 2 is a stress mark for marriages. Year 7 and year 8. And then there's probably some more, but I don't give a shit because I stopped at 7. So that's where my clock ended. But yeah, there are certain points in marriage that are historically known to be marked stressors and high times for divorce. And imagine, like me, 7 years in, that's where the breaking point is. 8 years in, that's where the breaking point is. And so you really don't know how long it's going to take to work through those kinks. So long suffering, my boy, like long suffering. Sometimes now I do think that it shouldn't be all suffering. And that sometimes makes it even more confusing because you have these bright moments and you're like, oh, this is great. And then it's followed by these, valleys that are awful, god awful. Because again, this person that you out of everybody in the world, you said, I choose you to be part of me and I part of you. That's a big ass space to fill. And when that person that you put all that faith in gets on your everlasting nerve, it's like, dang, man, but I chose you, you know? And so it can be a little bit of a struggle to see those moments and just, brush it off, It starts to amount to more and more and more and more. It's like, because this person takes up a big space in your life, the problems are magnified, as opposed to the homeboy or even the cousin or friend or family member that you can leave at their own fucking house and go home and find that peace. When you go home, that person is there and y'all not vibing. It feels a whole lot bigger than other arguments, And so, yeah, when you are not able to put in all that goddamn effort to make things work, then you need to get the fuck out. Because you're just wasting time. Because it is such a important relationship. Again, it affects all these different aspects of your life. Similarly, when that shit's going bad, it affects all those different things in your life. It's like your core, the hearth, whatever, the heart of the home. It's the heart, the core of you that is off kilter, and it does bleed into the different parts of your life. And mentally, emotionally, that shit is exhausting. And so it would behoove you to either make it work well or get out. And I'm still very much for make it work well. But as committed as I am to commitment, it doesn't matter if my partner isn't. And that's the fact of the matter. So if my partner is not able to step up and do the things, then... So if my ex didn't feel that there was hope in our marriage, as much as I may have hoped for it, there's only so much hope as the person with the least hope. Because I can't hope for him. I can't do it for him. And so that be the end. And so you just kind of I think you just have to accept that. And it's hard. I'm speaking literally from experience. It is super difficult, but something that did give me a form of peace, and I wouldn't expect everybody to have peace from the same things, was the idea that I would never want to be forced to be in something that made me so unhappy. And I don't really know exactly how unhappy he was, because believe it or not, it was a bit of a shock to me. But it's about perspective, because the things that I thought were just marriage difficulty to him was much more. And although I may not agree, I can't tell somebody how to feel about something. We all have different, emotional capacities and proclivities, and his are not mine and mine are not his. So all I can do is accept it and move accordingly, respond accordingly. And so I did. So I was talking in the episode I talked with Lee. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out. It's called Managing Expectations. And when I was speaking with my friend Jamala from Ready to Love Miami about our church girl episode, go and watch both of those. I'll post them somewhere around here if I figure out how to do it. If not, it'll be in the link below. Or just go to my page, all right? I was talking about this reality. I hope I'm not too close to this mic the whole time. This reality of, in a relationship, having to be okay if nothing ever changes, while simultaneously being okay if everything changes. And there's a lot of context that I'm not saying right there. So that's not to say that you're not supposed to, okay, blah, 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 blah. Being okay if nothing ever changes. It's something that I always make sure of. It's not to say that you go into a relationship and don't expect or require your partner to grow or evolve. You absolutely do, but you don't have control over that. And so while you might have requirements or wish upon a star, until that happens, I think our job in a marriage is to it's almost like see the rose through the thorn bush. You have to appreciate the good parts of them while working on the other things. Now, there are levels to this. There are some things that you can't wait for. Again, all of this is barring things like abuse and maybe even infidelity. Maybe that's that it. People are on different camps. That might be completely off the table for one couple, and that's fine. But there are some things as like if you have a gambling problem or a substance abuse problem, those might not be things that you can just wait for, some prolonged period of time. But for other things and I'm going to be facetious talking about, minor things, the way that they put the toilet paper on the roll. Okay, but also he's a good provider or a good cook. Okay, there are some things that you're going to have to exist within while loving on this person. And some of those things may never change. They may always put the toilet paper roll on opposite of the way that you like it. You might just have to deal with that. And I'm saying, now that's a small thing. There are things that are I'm going to say much worse, but there are things that bother you to your core, but they're not like bad things. They're just different from what you want. And I think that is a charge of marriage to let it go, bitch. Let it go. And conversely, if everything changes about your partner, having to be okay with that. And that comes with what I was talking about the evolution of a person, that kind of growth phase that honestly happens a whole lot as you step into real adulthood. And that's just I think that's what it takes in a marriage. If you are married prior to one of these transitional periods happening, your charge is to be okay with the fact that your partner is growing and evolving. And that is something that I'm preaching to myself, because I would say that I used to pride myself on being consistent. And while consistency is a good thing most of the time, the problem for me was it made me almost look down on change. Well, change can be good. Y'all, I'm hungry as hell. Did you hear that? Change can be good because change encompasses growth and evolution. But for me, my commitment to commitment for commitment's sake, I'm consistent. When I start something, I see it through. Well, sometimes that's to the detriment of me, and I have to be able to understand when I need to see something through and when I don't. It's not always going to be right or wrong. It's not so black and white. There's a lot more gray and nuance in that. And so understanding that, this person is going to change and evolve, and that's a good thing. Now, it is very fair of you to say, I don't like who you changed into. I don't like who you're evolving to be. In which case, I would hope that it's still worth seeing if the two of you can, again, put in that effort and find a way to exist harmoniously, and be, actually still have joy and happiness in your relationship. But if not, then I guess let bygones be bygones. But again, that's for everybody to decide on their own. But I do think that is kind of the charge of marriage, is committing to life with this other person without knowing the end result. But going forward. Well, now that I'm in my 30s, now that I'm in this portion of life that I am coming into who I desire to be, who I feel like I truly am, I feel like this portion of life, there's less transition and change that happens from now to the end of my life versus the beginning of my life to this point. And even from my 20s up to this point, there's a lot, there's like exponential growth that I feel happens from your 20s to your 30s. And so now I would think that hopefully the person that I am with in the future, we're starting from a better place. We're starting further along. There's so many things that I've learned about myself, like as far as who I am, also as far as what I need and what I desire, that I hope that we're starting from a better place. Because make no mistakes, it's going to be issues. We're going to have fights, and we're going to have some times where we are, having to do that work and put in that effort. But I'm hoping that our cores are better aligned than I was with my ex. I'm hoping that who we are at this juncture is more indicative of the rest of our lives. And so getting through those hard times, the effort that's going to be required is a little bit easier to stomach because we like each other, because we're a little bit more compatible in this phase of our life, in the next phases to come. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I definitely wanted to touch on that because it has been a theme that I think has been popping up a lot lately. And I've been recognizing, I don't be knowing where I stand on this. Like I'm coming to understand that there is a case for divorce being the best case scenario. And yeah, I'll admit that I was definitely not a believer in that at all before. And although I'm not like a proponent of it, I do understand that being so opposed to it can be just as detrimental or toxic, unhealthy, because it sounds god awful to be miserable and feel stuck just for the sake of proving a point, And so anyways, all right, y'all, I'm hungry, I'm tired, and I just need to go because it's my business. But there's so much to discuss about the topic of divorce and separation that I don't even want to try to get it all into one episode. I don't even know how long I've been talking now, and this is just off the cuff about one issue in divorce. So yeah, stay tuned if you have anything in particular that you want to discuss, because again, this is a very taboo subject that isn't talked about openly enough, and it's affecting a lot of people. Again, 50% of all marriages or some shit like that fail. So what are the discussions about them? So hopefully, if you're hearing this before you get married, if you're hearing this and you're young, this inspires you to do a little bit more work before you commit to it. Because it's not because you don't know how to make good decisions. It's you really don't even know your full self yet, or your partner doesn't know their full self yet, even if you are, advanced beyond your years. So yeah, just a heads up. The heads up that I wish that I had. So anyways, as always, thank you so much for listening to me, rocking with me. Check me out on all podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, Anchor, all that stuff at Lex Talk. That's LEXTLK. And across all social media platforms at is_Alexis. That's ISS_Alexis. No E, no I, double S. Confusing as fuck. Just check the links below. All right. Anyways, bye.